okay, so how is this actually done? Is it like through a device that is pointed at you? Is there a distance involved here? There's many questions that arise from this, and just as you say there, you have actually had experience by these EMF. I don't know if we should call them weaponry then, I guess. But let's go into that and tell us more about it. What happened and what was the device and how was it used on you? Were it used on a group of people? What happened?
Yeah, well, it was specifically targeted at me. This all started for me in 1994, and I was 19 at the time. And it's a very different thing when, looking back on it now, it's another thing. But at the time, I had no idea what was going on. All of a sudden, when it started, I remember feeling this strange type of vibration around me. And I was getting certain voices beamed at me, because this is one of the aspects of these technologies, is that they can take a voice and they can either beam it somewhere around you, or they can actually beam it into your head.
Hmm.
And a lot of things that they were doing with me was playing this type of psychological game. And of course, when people hear this kind of stuff, they would think, well, you just got a mental disease and all these other things.
Hmm.
But the first time it happened for me, it was they hit me extremely hard with these things. And the first kind of hit that I got was an intuitive thing. So I've always been kind of in touch with myself since I was a little kid, always thinking about things and following my intuition and heart and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
And while I'm getting hit with all these voices, and they would keep me up for 3 days on end, sometimes longer, allow me to sleep for a couple hours, and keep me up for another 3-4 days, and all these types of things are possible with these weapons. And my intuition started to scream at me that the government was doing this to me.
Mm.
And I couldn't explain how it was happening or anything of that nature, but that was the intuition that was happening. At the time I was living with my parents, so I told them.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a strange character that moved in next door, not too long before this started.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of hard for me to talk about it because everything's kind of disjunct in my mind as far as the memories are concerned. So
Mm-hmm.
I definitely apologize for not sounding as if it's flowing properly.
No problem at all. I guess okay, so it started, but so this was if we are to say like this, was this something that was going on almost constantly, like every day, or was it like short periods for a day or for a week or for a month? What was the time span here, so to speak?
Yeah, it would happen until they would get me into a mental hospital. So the time frame would be maybe a month and a half.
Mm.
Sometimes I lasted, in the beginning I lasted for a couple months. This was going on. Then my parents, they didn't know what was going on until they start talking to people, and then they're saying, oh, well, maybe he's schizophrenic or he's bipolar. My intuition was always telling me that wasn't the case, that there was something more going on here.
Mm.
And then they would put me into a mental institute. And when that happens, it's called 302. You get 302 to a mental institute. You're pretty much a prisoner in this place. You can't get out. You're forced to take their pills. They really don't want to hear in that place what your understanding or perceptions are, or what you're experiencing.
Yeah.
They just want to give you pills and then keep you quiet. And when you look into the background of psychology and psychiatry, you find it's just another avenue that's plugged into the mental health system, which again is controlled ultimately by these New World Order cabal.
Yeah.
In some way, shape, or form, that they have their hands in all this stuff.
Mm.
So I would come out of the hospital, and the first time I came out of the hospital, my mind was it was pretty much blank. I was like a zombie. They put me on this medication called Halidol and Cogentin, and it makes your brain swell.
Okay.
And then your brain kind of rubs up against the top of your skull.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I came out, and I'm not sure if it was something that had to do with the weapons or had to do with the medication or the trauma of the whole experience.
Mm.
But when I came out, I was in this zombified state. I couldn't remember anything about myself.
Oof. Okay.
So I would come out and I wouldn't take the pills. I didn't want them because I had this sense that something else was going on.
Mm.
And I was telling them one story before about the next door neighbor is this one guy named Payson that moved in. And there were strange things happening from over at his house. He was a strange character. But it doesn't make it starts to make sense that when I said to my parents that the government was behind this, they must have told him. Because one day I was out back, and he comes out there and just out of the blue starts saying to me, AJ, the government's not doing this to you, and you're just having a problem, and all these other things. And then he starts mentioning guys like Mark Chapman.
Really?
And Sirhan. And some of these other, people that when you do the research into what was going on with them, there's definitely a lot more happening than just what the cover story is. You're looking at some type of mind control operation that was working on these guys to set them up as patsies or to run them to go and commit a murder in case of John Lennon for whatever purpose that these people have.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was strange that he comes out and says that to me. Later down the road when I start educating myself about these things, it starts making sense. And then later, I remember talking to him at one point. He tells me that his father actually worked on the Manhattan Project.
There we go.
And that's pretty interesting. Now, I'm not saying one way or the other. I suspect this guy was involved in what was going on with me.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I have no proof of it. Because with these type of weapon systems, you're dealing with the perfect crime. I mean, as far as the delivery systems are concerned with this, it can be done from satellites.
Mm-hmm.
It can be done with type of devices hooked up on planes flying over.
Sure.
It can be done with handheld type of devices. The HARP antenna is another thing. We have the Gwen towers, which they say the Gwen towers are set up to be there to have a communication system after there's some type of nuclear strike.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at how the Gwen towers are constructed, they're not built for that. They wouldn't be able to survive a nuclear strike. They have the circuitry in them that would fry up. From when a nuclear bomb's dropped, at first there's this electromagnetic blast that precedes it, and that knocks all the electronics out before even the radiation and the fire and all that other stuff comes in. They have these things set up. I think they're like, I'm not sure, but they're set up all across America. I think they're like 200 miles apart. So that could be another delivery system. And I suspect that the whole cell phone industry itself is a front. And that these antennas, these cell phone antennas and things like that there's something more going on with them.
Yeah, just look at the way, if you think about it, just look at the way how cell phones has been, in a way, delivered into society. I mean, everybody, almost everybody, as far as I know, that actually can afford one in that sense, actually do have one, and the way that these have been, slashed in prices in order for everyone to actually get a hold of one, and how it has been, hyped in that sense. There's definitely something very interesting going on if you actually sit down and think about the way these things in such a short time has been implemented, into our society.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you're looking at a virtual spy in your pocket when dealing with these phones. And some of the original research that was done on this, I'm not sure the man who did it, but he went and wrote a book about it. I'm not sure what the title is either. I mean, they gave this guy, I think, $1 million to do the research, and it was Motorola at the time. And he comes back and he says, no, these things aren't safe for humans to use.
Yeah.
And yet they just, went, of course, bought some other science.
Yeah, exactly. They paid.
It would take money and say, yeah, they're safe.
Sure. Paid for a new study, of course.
Right.
So, I mean, okay, yes, we have. I mean, so many aspects here. I mean, I'm having an article up right now here that is called DARPA's Sonic Projector, and it says basically that the Air Force has experimented with microwaves that create sounds in people's heads, and this is like from Wired.com. So this is this is something that is kind of coming into the mainstream, as it were, now. Also, it's they're talking about the beam sounds, and they have projected or directed acoustic systems, even being implemented in some museums and exhibition halls, that you actually, when you go into a certain field, very narrow, only you can hear it, directed sounds. I mean, this is again, this is not that is way out there or far ahead. If people think that, this is something that is has been played with for a long time now. So I mean, it is out there. But would you say, or would you suspect that you actually were being set up to be a drone, an assassin? What do you think were going on here, and why you? Do you have any clues on that?
Well, I mean, I can't answer why they did it to me. I mean, I have my ideas on it about what maybe alerted them to me, or things of that nature. I don't know what they were trying to do, but whatever it was, it didn't work, because I'm here talking about it now.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty much in control of my life. I still get hit with things once in a while, but nothing like what it used to be.
Okay.
What it used to be like. I personally feel that what's going on is that, I mean, I'm not the only one who's been hit with this stuff.
No.
I'm in contact with a handful of other victims, and I'm sure there's thousands of them out there. But what I think that they're doing is that they're actually field testing these things. When you're going to test something, you're not going to get your best results in the laboratory.
Yeah.
You got to go out and do it in a live type of situation.
Yeah.
So there you can do your best, testing on these types of weapons, and you can go back and take your data or whatever and reformulate and say, well, this isn't working and all this other stuff. I myself kind of found a way to defeat them over time. Each time that they would hit me, they hit me a total of 6 times. Once in 1994, I would go into the hospital. I would come out of the hospital. I'd be wrecked from the whole experience, the pills and everything else. I would build myself back up, start getting my life back together, and here I am. They're telling me I'm a schizophrenic, I'm bipolar, you're not going to be able to live your life normally without these pills. And every time I stopped taking the pills, I started to, okay, let's get back to where I was.
Yeah.
Start